Today, I'm going to be discussing the issues surrounding the next generation workforce with Jonas Trautmann, Global Product Marketing Manager for ABB Process Automation. Hello, Jonas.
Hi, Suzanne. Great to be here.
Now, in recent years, we've experienced some rapid technology advances, which has resulted in huge changes in the way we work and the tools we use. And for engineers, it's also brought about the need for new skill sets. So, Jonas, let's start with the issue of engineering skill sets for the next generation. They will need to be prepared to tackle increasingly complex and interdisciplinary challenges. Could you highlight some of the challenges they will face and the skills that will be needed?
I think that's a great question to start with. If you look back what was happening in the last, let's say, decades or two, I think what is very prominent is that new technologies are being introduced to our society in a never seen pace, right? So it's happening in an accelerated way. Let's take the introduction of Netflix maybe as an example that happened in 1999. And what we have been seeing here is it took more than 3.5 years until 1 million users really have adopted Netflix, right? And if we go back maybe just a little bit from today, we hear about ChatGPT, which is super prominent in all of our industries. And it only took 5 days for ChatGPT to achieve the same. So I think the speed, the velocity of new technologies being introduced has changed and has ramped up dramatically, right? And this comes back to a new skill set that is required for all of our engineers, and I would say for all of our workforce in general, which comes to lifelong learning and the willingness to adapt to new things, right? We cannot operate and handle stuff in the way we have done it before. We have to adapt, we have to use these new technologies, and we need to be willing to learn on how to make the best out of it, right? There is an overall awareness of staying competitive. There is a need to stay competitive in various industries. And we can only achieve this if we are willing to accept these new technologies and really find a way on how to leverage them in a reasonable way.
Could you maybe talk us through some of the key trends that are emerging in the process and energy industries relating to the next generation workforce?
Yeah. I think the trends in process and energy industries are twofold. We see one very clear sign of the demographic shift. So there is a demographic shift, and this will really drive the need for employers in the process and energy industries to be more attractive to the workforce of tomorrow. And this is really because of the changes that is happening in a demographic scale, especially here in Europe. So if you take a look into the population and how it's being changed in Europe, you can see that the average amount of kids a woman gets is around 1.5 currently in Europe, and this really comes down to an issue that is only being kind of accelerated by the fact that on top of that, we had the baby boomer generation, which is slowly retiring. And this really puts a strong need in finding the right people and in a society where there is less and less people. On top of that, there is also the brain drain. So the young talents of today, they are moving to other places. They go to Asia, they go to the US because of better working conditions. Maybe there's more attractive employers for them overseas. And so this really puts Europe, I would say, in a tough spot here to find the right people and find the right talent to continue. So what we are seeing from ABB is that employers in process and energy industries will become more flexible in terms of whom they hire, and they need to become more attractive. They need to, as an example, offer more remote working possibilities. They need to kind of promote work-life balance in a better way, promote flexibility by the people they are hiring. So all of these changes will happen here. And this is, I would say, two very dramatic effects that we are seeing today, and we will see even stronger than looking forward.
And how is ABB addressing the changing roles and processes that are needed for this increasingly digital workforce?
Yeah. I believe there is two ways on how to answer that. Maybe the first one from an internal perspective. So we in ABB, of course, have the similar set of challenges as the industries in general. So what we try to do is we try to be more attractive for the future workforce and for future talents. And this comes down to various factors. As an example, sustainability. This has been on our radar for quite some years now. We have expressed very ambitious sustainability targets, and we follow up these targets on a yearly basis because sustainability is one of the key factors for the future workforce, and we are taking our responsibility here as a global technology provider. And then on top of that, internally, there is certain job rotation programs. There is more and more usage of learning platforms internally that we in ABB see. And this really comes down to the fact that I mentioned earlier, that there is the need to be able to learn. There is the need to be able to adapt to new things. And this is being taken into account with these factors. If we kind of move the focus a bit and don't look internally, but also look externally, what does this mean for our customers that we are serving from an ABB perspective? We see more and more needs to support our customers in staying competitive. And they have, as I think it's obvious now, they have the need to kind of capture the know-how that they have today in their workforce and really transfer this know-how to the new generation. And this is something that we are currently working on with the Augmented Operator program, which you might have heard about.
Okay. So it would appear then that combining the strengths of humans and technology to achieve better outcomes represents really a paradigm shift in the way industrial operations are managed. Could you tell us a little bit more about ABB's Augmented Operator?
The idea of Augmented Operator is really to adapt the role of the operator from today towards the future. And what we are seeing from ABB is that the operator of the future will move away from repetitive operations tasks and will be more kind of looking into monitoring and advanced analytic kind of activities. So the target that we really have here is to amplify human potential and enable the operator to be more productive with the information that is around him. So this means really that the operator of the future is, if you want to say it like this, is an expert that is supported by algorithms and supported by data at the same time. And I think the big question is, how is this possible? And I want to kind of mention a couple of trends and technology that we have not talked about yet so far. So if you look back in the last, let's say 20 years, maybe, we have been seeing the introduction of AI and machine learning in a large scale. ChatGPT we talked about earlier. There is changes in the world of augmented reality as well as virtual reality, giving kind of remote workers more capabilities on how to work. It's used for training, etc. Mobile devices, I think that's very prominent and very obvious for everyone nowadays. We have a super smart device with us in our pockets most of the time, and this was just not there like 20 years ago. There is drones, there is cobots being introduced. So this is another source of kind of a person or equipment to collaborate with. And then at the end of the day, all of this is backed up by the advancement in computational power. So we see computers, servers, cloud infrastructure, etc., becoming more and more powerful in terms of performing calculations and operations. What I want to kind of dig into maybe a bit is the mobile devices. And here we have an offering since a couple of years from ABB's perspective, which is called Connected Worker. So if you kind of imagine a chemical plant or a food and beverage plant where you had a person kind of doing manual field activities in terms of maybe cleaning a tank, doing some manual interactions and maintenance. Earlier on, this person really had a pen and paper with a list of instructions that he had to follow. And then once he was doing step one, he checkmarked this, went to step two, etc. And then at the end of the day, this piece of paper somehow needed to be scanned, kept in some hard disk drive, and then maybe later on was being looked into. What we have released from ABB is Connected Worker, which is an application that really takes all of these steps into a digital offering. So you can have this on your smartphone and then walk around with your smartphone. And as this person being the field technician, you get represented the next task, you check mark this, and all of these steps are then digitalized by nature, right? So, I mean, this saves a lot of time. This makes it very flexible to adapt these procedures if it's necessary. And there is even a HoloLens version of this offering, which takes into the augmented reality bucket that I was speaking about earlier. So, this really is an example on how technology is enabling a lot of these changes that we talk about here, and that we can really see that technology is the foundation that we can build on from ABB's perspective, and the changes in the demographic landscape that we talked about earlier is the driving force behind it.
Okay, thank you. Right, I think we need to move on and address Industry 5 then, which has been touted as being the next industrial revolution, which sees humans and advanced technologies working together to create a more collaborative and efficient work environment. Is this really a new evolution, and how does Augmented Operator sit within this context?
Well, I think it's a clear yes and no at the same time. So is it new that we from ABB look into what the operator is doing? I would say no. We had a very big theme of operator effectiveness in the past. We were focusing on alarm rationalization, so basically kind of streamlining what kind of alarms are really being shown to the operator. We had this productized, we had this as consulting service as well. We have been looking into high performance KHMI, so to really kind of streamline what data is being shown to the operator, to make it very obvious to him if certain process values, as an example, from a temperature measurement are out of boundaries, so that it's very clear for him what is different and what needs his attention. We also had multi-system integration released to the market, where our customers then were really able to consolidate plants more easily and operate plants from a single centralized control room. So from that perspective, I would say it's not entirely new. What is obviously new is these technologies that I was talking about earlier on. And there is also then a trend that there is more and more customers asking for autonomous operations. And we are seeing that we from ABB are driving this path towards autonomous control systems and autonomous operations. And we are doing this obviously while protecting the investments that our customers did in the past into the control systems that they have and the way they are working. And I think this is a very nice comparison with what we are seeing in the automotive world as well, where we see that cars are getting more and more advanced in terms of having additional supporting devices, lane assistance, automated distance control, etc. So the driver is kind of augmented here, if you want to say it like this, in a similar fashion as we are seeing it from the operator's perspective. Right? And we are kind of moving up various levels here towards autonomous, very similar as we see it in the automotive sector. If we now look into, let's say, Augmented Operator in a bit more detail, what is it that we are really working on? The first pillar that we want to introduce to the market is something that we call knowledge extractor. And this really ties into what I was mentioning earlier, capturing the know-how of the workforce as of today and providing a clear path on how to bring this forward to the new generation. So with knowledge extractor, we will foster collaboration between these two generations. You can imagine this as an operator being in front of a screen. He can search through all of the historical data in lightning speed and gets recommendations on what to do in a particular situation that he's in. Next to that, we want to enhance this with more and more simulation and what if scenarios. So basically that he is getting also insights into what is happening if he's choosing a certain path. Forecasting is an important topic. And then eventually we also want to have this anomaly detection embedded into the product as well, which means that the system automatically can detect strange behaviors and can get notifications to the operator so that he's aware and that he can really focus on this particular thing which is detected as an anomaly, and that can really initiate countermeasures to keep the plant running, to ensure that our customers are being productive, and ensure that there is no unplanned downtime happening.
Okay, lovely. Do you have any real-world examples that demonstrate these augmented technologies in action?
As I mentioned, we are working currently on Augmented Operator, but I think there is a nice example here that we have been done from ABB's perspective a couple of years ago. And this goes with an oil rig from one of our oil and gas customers in Norway. And this oil rig there was a great collaboration here with our customer and the ABB experts. As you probably know, Susan, ABB has over 100,000 employees. We are active in over 100 countries, and there is a great expertise and domain know-how within our workforce. And in this particular example, what was happening is that those experts were sent to the plant, and the startup procedure of this oil rig was analyzed. And the result of this activity really came down to an increased startup time of 5.5 hours, and the operator that earlier on had to do 3,600 manual interactions with the system really was able to do the same thing now with a single click of a button. And at the end of the day, this really means 5.5 hours less time in startup time. This means 5.5 hours earlier in production. This, of course, has a massive impact on the productivity of the plant, as well as the CO2 emissions that were wasted before while being in the startup time before. So I think that's a great example on what kind of capabilities we have if you look closely. Looking forward, we want to have this more and more automated with our technology offerings. And I think it's also very clearly depicting how the role of the operator will change from repetitive tasks, which are probably very error prone for him, towards a more automated system where the operator has a supervising task, monitoring and really checking that everything is going according to the specification and that he can intervene if necessary.
Brilliant, thank you. Right, and on to my last question. I understand that ABB Distributed Control Systems sits at the heart of an ABB collaboration with Imperial College in London, and that it allows both students and industry professionals to benefit from a hands-on educational experience. Could you tell us a bit more about this collaboration and how maybe it's helping that next generation workforce?
I think this is an example that started somewhere around in 2012, and we just recently renewed this collaboration with the Imperial College from ABB. And I think it's a nice example of what kind of a collaboration we can do with the educational and research side here as a big company. In this particular examples, we have equipped the Imperial College with our flagship DCS, System 800XA, and they're using it for research purposes around carbon capturing. So this really enables them to do research around this topic around sustainability, climate change, we talked about it, and really comes in a flexible way so that they can do different kind of research, different kind of experiments, and also use it in educational purposes. So this is really a way on the new generation of engineers, the new generation of the workforce can be shaped. And I think it's a nice opportunity for us to be present here with our control system equipment. Maybe one personal comment regarding this question. This also happened to me. So back in my university time, we were also equipped with certain ABB products and equipments. So we had robots, we had control system visualization that also was supported by ABB. And I think from personal perspective, it makes a great difference if you know the products that you potentially can work on in the future. So you know what you are getting into, you know the company, you can build a relation. So I think this is a great step on becoming a key player on the person's mind, being in the university, working on research, and maybe kind of looking into a first job experience afterwards.
And of course, it makes them comfortable with working with the new technologies. So it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, that's wrapped up my questions then. So Thank you, Jonas. It's been really interesting getting your thoughts on this subject today. And thank you for sparing the time to speak with me today.
Thanks for the opportunity, Suzanne. It was great talking to you. Thanks.
Thank you.